Alright, got this running, and I think I've got a better camera angle on this bin than I had in the last video. It's been 7 days since I last fed this. The only change that I've done in that time is yesterday when I added 204 more worms that I pulled out of the horse manure pile. So I got a little boost in population, but that's it. So I'm excited to take a look into this and see how it's done in the last week. I'll take my cloth covering off. Got some nice scraps to feed it this week. Couple flying insects. Don't like too many of those, but it might mean they could have come from the let's see, fresh stuff on top of here. They could have come from the little bit of horse manure that came with those worms yesterday, or it could just be that we didn't bury the scraps from last week deep enough. So we'll take a look at it and see. Alright, but yeah, right here is where I put that horse manure yesterday, and they all took the opportunity to just dive down through that newspaper and directly into the good stuff. So I'll try to get that underneath a little bit. Actually, before I lied, there's a couple right on top here. But I'm going to try to just move the newspaper out a little bit and get this extra horse manure down there, just so it's not on top. And even that is a very good broken down product. This is a very well aged horse manure. That's why there's a lot of worms in it. Worms you won't find in real fresh stuff, but once it's aged down a little bit, once it's cooled down, then it's a place where you can find so many of these. Yesterday and it's a pretty much perfect weather, 70 degrees or so, in the space of about 2 5-gallon buckets worth. If you just imagine those side by side, that much material, and half an hour of looking through it, I found those 200 some worms. So I've now pulled over 1,600 worms out of the wild and put them in here, in addition to the ones that I got from somebody locally. So it's really a growing bin, and it's going to be really neat just to see how this continues to grow. But anyway, let's check in on some past feedings. So this indicator over here showed that last week I fed in this corner. Previous week over here, and it's just going to continue to rotate. Haven't done that many feedings on it, but we'll just see how they're doing. So if we look in on last week, some very clear coffee still here on the surface, and I can see cantaloupe still here, though they're probably they're not getting too much to it yet. There's some down in here, but not a whole ton in this feeding yet. Food's still fairly whole, so it just might not be as broken down as they enjoy. Now on the top, in with the coffee grounds, I can feel some of those good, light, flaky castings, and they feel very different from the coffee. If you know worms, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, their castings are just a very light, they're not grainy, they're just a very airy substance. Alright, previous week, I can already see more worms in here than in last week's feeding. Some of that bread that was in there still visible. That stuff, it takes a couple weeks to break down. Go down though. Let's see. There's a sticker from something that was in here. Maybe an avocado. I think that was avocado. There's not much left of it other than the sticker, which I'm going to get out of there. And they're somewhat enjoying this. There's a good amount of them in here. Not a giant ball of worm yet, but definitely there's some. And continue to see some of these little seeds germinating in here. Which is alright, because that's just more free food for them. This here was part of a banana, so not much left of the banana, not all that much left of the peel, but the worms are definitely into that. That's something that they enjoy a lot, is a banana peel. Alright, cover that corner back up. And let's go to the previous week, where You can tell from some of these little plants germinating that there was cantaloupe. There we go. And because these bins are open air and not covered, they get that light, which lets the seeds germinate, which is kind of nice that they germinate now, because if you kept this as a covered bin, the darkness would make it so that they don't necessarily germinate, and then when you finish the product and put the castings aside, then they'll start all spawning up at the same time. I prefer it to be now, so I can break them up, feed them to the worms, and keep the cycle going. So in this mix, I'll pull a smaller handful. There's worms moving about. There's a lot of these light flaky castings. And they're doing well on this material. There's not a lot of, there's pretty much no food left over here other than, now given this was about 3 weeks ago, you know, banana peel. They are all in that, enjoying that. Excellent. Okay, yeah, not a lot left in that corner pocket. And this corner, I can't remember if I did a corner feeding in this one or if this was older, but whatever has been here, and I'm seeing some cantaloupe seeds, so must have done feeding in this corner before. But mostly, almost entirely finished castings and some bedding. The bedding, they'll just eat down over time. Want some of that in there. You know, with the next feeding, they'll end up eating down most of this. This is just what remains of a little cardboard egg carton that they really enjoy that sort of material because it's already a very broken down cardboard that's just easy for them to enjoy. Then in the center, probably have a lot down in the center. Although they tend to die for other surfaces. A lot of finished castings down in here. A lot of worms down in here. That's just beautiful. So, they're doing well, but yeah, I'm really happy with seeing their movement in here. Seeing how well they're doing. But now I'm going to cover that up. And actually, we're going to go back to this corner right here where we just were. Because over here is where they're getting a nice, bountiful feeding today. So clear the corner completely. And then I'm going to put in some more bedding. I always like to keep a good amount of bedding going in here. It helps soak up a lot of the liquid that's coming out of these scraps, as well as they just enjoy eating it. And anything that they can eat and turn into beautiful compost for me, I'm going to let them do that. If I see big pieces of newspaper, things like that, I'll tear them down a little bit, because the more surface area you have, the faster everything will break down. Alright. And I've got a bunch of scraps. I prepped a bunch of this stuff the other day, chopped them up. I peeled a bunch of bananas that I was using for some dog treats. So putting a bunch of banana peels in here. Nice old bell pepper, some cheap cantaloupe. I love their cantaloupe. And then lettuce. This lettuce, I've been putting lettuce in all the different feedings, pretty much almost every feeding I've been doing in most bins. And this stuff vanishes. They love a good fresh leaf. And pretty soon they'll be getting it from the garden, because I was out in my garden today and seeing little lettuces popping up everywhere from where I've planted them in the last weeks. So they're going to enjoy every bit of this. It's all very worm-friendly material that that'll just tickle their fancy, if you will. Not that anyone uses that phrase. So anyway, some coffee grounds down on top of here. Good amount of those, because they do go through them pretty well in just a couple weeks' time. Those are some very wet grass, but just to show how granular that is compared to the light and flaky castings. It's a very, very different material, and all these feedings have been getting coffee grounds. You really don't see that grainy texture of the coffee grounds. And then there's my egg grit. Always give grit with my feedings. They need it, and just a beautiful thing to recycle into here. So stir that together well, stir it down into the food a little bit, mix everything together. Then I'm just going to return some of these castings on top of here. Some of this material. Make sure it's covered pretty well as I put some of these guys on top so they can quickly dive down and see what this feeding's all about. Alright, I'm going to put some extra newspaper back over the top to help make it so nothing is sensing any of this material. No flying insects getting into it. Hopefully that'll help keep them down. But it's not a huge worry yet. We'll keep an eye in case any grow in population. Put my feeding indicator right here. Heck, I've got a receipt. Looks like it's a Dollar General right there. It's another beautiful thing for the worms to enjoy as bedding and food. Then, before that, I need to put my Dollar General bag. This is a nice, big, and strong bag, so I kept that to keep as worm covering. Doesn't cover the whole bin, and that's alright. I'm seeing a really good moisture level all through here, right where I want it. Not too wet. They'd probably like a little bit wetter, but I don't want it to turn into soup or mud in here. So it's not too wet, and it's definitely not too dry. Which is what you definitely don't want in a bin, is for it to dry out. If I see it start to get too dry, then I'll either add some really moist food somewhere, or just add a few ice cubes here and there, let them slowly melt down into it, and provide it a little moisture. But right now it's doing great. Open air, lights, a lot of the day are on. If not, then the sun gets through into the garage pretty well and keeps them from wanting to come up here. So they are perfectly content in this bin, which is getting bulkier and heavier by the day. But they're doing quite well. Now, this week, I'm probably going to be giving this even more of a population boost. Pulling a bunch more worms out of that worm pile as I work in the gardens. Because I figure every one that I get out there, if I put into here, it's doing more concentrated work than it's necessarily going to be doing in the garden. And there's certainly plenty of them out there. So putting as many as I can in here is letting me really see what this population can do and turn it into a really nice finished product. Maybe I'll try to, when I gather the next big bucket of them, I'll see if I can get, 500 or more in the next bucket, because that'll be really fun to see them disperse in, and we'll put them right in the middle and capture some footage of them just wriggling away and getting into the mix. But thanks for watching. Oh, wait, one more thing. Where is... Dang it, where is... Oh, there he is. It's down. He's trying to get away from me. I say he, there's no he. Alright. And, Ava, if you're watching, just for you, I'll call this guy Willie. I'll never be able to identify him again once he's out of my hand, but in this bin, this worm's name is Willie. Just a little inside joke with a friend of mine. So, anyone who's watching, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're learning something. I know I'm learning all along the way as I continue to do this. I learned from a lot of other people, a lot of their videos. Never be afraid to try. Always dig in, take a wild adventure in trying something new. For me, it's trying all sorts of different worm things right now. It's trying mushroom growing, which I'll eventually do a video on. You know, don't be afraid to try. Jump in, grab a project, try something new, and see what you can learn along the way. That's what I'm trying to do. Hope you learned something from mine, and you know, if you've got any comments, drop one from me. I'd love to learn from you. Thanks, guys.